Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneurs Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs or at Justin Bizzarro. Again, that's 2 Z's, 2 R's. You can also find us at our community of Gorilla Brave. You can find that group it is a private group protecting the entrepreneurs and their confidentiality. It is on Facebook. That is a networking group for everyone on there. That is safe. That is free. And then there's Instagram as well for everyone. That is the educational side of everything that everyone has asked for over the last few years from the podcast. So while I intended to go in a different direction with it, I hear all the fans that are building up across the world. I hear the requests, and we've delivered. We've put show notes in there. We've put transcripts. We've put summaries in there. And then we are also taking all that information, cross-referencing it with my experience, knowledge, education, and then with scholarly and academic information. So that is going up there. So in a way, instead of using resources to pump out the podcasts that have become more automated now, we're using those resources to produce information for Gorilla Brave, for the entrepreneurs, for the group out there. And I apologize, guys. I thought it would take me way faster to get this done and figured out in the networking events and the summits. It just didn't. It took me over a year to sort of navigate all the waters, some things personally, some time in seminary, figuring that out, and just trying to move forward. So with that being said, it is all on there for you guys. GorillaBrave.love is the website. So with that being said, I have Chef Pop from Soul Bowl from Connecticut with us today. How are you doing today, Chef?
I am doing great. I'm doing really good.
We have quite a story here because when you said to call you Chef, and this all comes, guys, because I really try hard to pronounce everyone's name properly and make sure I get it right on the show. It is actually the most nerve-wracking part of the show for me because I believe a person's name means so much. But Chef Pop, the former truck driver turned food entrepreneur by necessity, by the seeking of freedom, as we discussed beforehand. So, I love this story. I think it's important. I've seen other truck drivers in the world go this trend recently, whether it's sauces or a consumer packaged good or a barbecue or some passion because of the hardships that are arising due to inflation and rising costs in trucking. But I'm going to give you the mic, Chef. It's all yours from little pop to big pop. I would really love to hear your story, and the mic's yours. It's your show. You can take as long as you want.
All right, everybody. So yeah, my name's Chef Pop. I'm 29 years old. I'm married. I have 2 kids. So yeah, a lot of my journey started off just from observing my parents' efforts, going to work every day, and their struggles from trying to make ends meet. I grew up with 5 sisters, so it was a lot of us in the house, so it took a lot to keep the house going. And daily, I would just be on a quest to just be like, I always knew I wanted to have my own business just from a young age, just because looking at the lifestyle that we lived and the lifestyle that I wanted to acquire it just didn't match up. So I was always just thinking like, dang, I can't wait to figure out how I'm gonna make this thing happen. But before that, like when I was in preschool, I used to always say like I'm gonna be a chef. I want to be a chef. I want to be a head chef of my own restaurant. And honestly, I didn't even really know where that kind of conversation came from because like in my household growing up, it wasn't like cooking was like a specialty thing. We kind of just cooked and then ate, but like it was just a passion that was just burning deep inside of me. So like as I started to get older, started to experiment a little bit. Then I remember when I was like 13, my dad used to be cooking all the time, and he would never let me cook with us. He would always be like, he'd be like, "Yo, no, I'm gonna cook. You just season. You can just season the food. So just go mix the seasoning. And I'm gonna taste it, and then if it's good, I'll use it," type thing. So that kind of like lit a fire in me because I'm like, "Yo, why this guy not let me cook? I'm 13 now. I'm able to do something in the kitchen, but he was just like, nah, just work on the seasoning." So by him doing that, it kind of just like lit the fire in me to when I finally am old enough to actually take over the kitchen, I'm just going to be in there and I don't want anyone in there. I want my own piece in a long time. So, you know, 16, I started experimenting. frozen chicken patties, Kraft mac and cheese, just putting some type of concoctions together. And then at, I think it's about 17, 18, I got my first job as a waiter in a restaurant. And I was like, wow, finally, I'm not cooking, but at least I'm getting my hands wet. I'm in the field, get to see what's actually going on. So, I was a student at that point. I was just observing, and I kind of just jumped job to job, just trying to see what different operations look like, just so I could start to understand like how the kitchens work, how the food process work. At about 19, I just I had just met my wife at the time. Right now, I just met her at 19, so I had got my first job in the actual kitchen, and it was rough. Like it was terrible. I didn't know how to do anything. I had no experience, so like I was just getting beat up every day, and it was really just a grind for like the first, I would say, year and a half. And I finally started to get the hang of it. Started, be able to hold down my station, clean up all those things. Because, in restaurants, you got to prep, you got to clean, you got to work the line for service, and then you got to clean up at the end of the night. And it took a while. But after that point, once I finally started to understand it, I kind of really started to get good and like hone in on just my cooking style, which is just like a street chef, taking high quality food and then just like personally, I don't really like care for the fancy style of cooking. Like I really like the street vendors and those style of chefs because I feel like those are the people who are really making some of the best food with what they got, and sometimes that's some of the best food you eat. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
at that point I kind of started to hone in, and the restaurant I was working at the time, we ran a lot of specials, and I'm like, wow, every time we run a special, this thing sells. It blew my mind because, like, typical restaurants, you think they're just selling what's on the menu. No, this one was a little different because they were having specials weekly, and every week those specials was selling like crazy. So at that point, I kind of started to like build the idea for the brand. I'm just like, wow, if I was to start selling food from my house, I could kind of change the menu daily to just offer variety and then just kind of showcase my abilities, what I'm saying, as opposed to having a menu and trying to buy all these different items. I could just sell one item a day and just change it every day. And then that way my customers will start to know like, wow, he actually knows how to cook just based on the variety that I'm offering. So, well, I think it's about 2021.
That's a good strategy, by the way, but we'll touch on it. Keep going. I like
Yeah, so
this.
about 2021, me and my wife's coming together. At that point, I'm reading right now what's the book? The Email. And then he talks about the entrepreneurial seizure, where it's like, you kind of see like how you can make things work, and you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna just do it myself. So I don't know. I think the
Yeah.
idea was that I quit my job at the time.
Yeah, there you go.
My wife told me, she was like, you should. There's no reason for you to quit. Like you don't even know what it's gonna do. Why do you quit? I'm like, listen, this is it. I know this is it. We're gonna make it work. So I quit. First day I made like $300. Second day I probably made like 400. So I'm like, what? I made 300 in a week. I'm doing great. This is it. I made it. The week after that, nobody did buy any food. So my wife had to start
Yeah.
funding, the project. I'm like, yo, babe, just let me borrow $600. I'm gonna make back it. I'm gonna make it back, and I'm gonna give you your money. For about 2 weeks straight, she gave me her whole check, and I wasn't able to make any money back. And I was like, whoa, I cannot do this. Like we just started dating. She's letting me borrow money. I'm like, nah, this is bad. So all right, you know what? I'm going back to work because this is not acceptable. I don't want to,
Yeah.
and I'm going back to work to figure it out. At that point, I was like, all right, I need a backup plan just in case this thing don't work out. So I went to school to get my license as a truck driver. Got my license, While I'm on the truck, I'm just, all right, on the weekends, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna start selling some food, Here and there, I was doing like pop-up shops at the park that I knew everyone was gonna be at, selling $5 chickens off the grill, and just trying to build the brand because really that's the most important part. People seeing you in the lane that you're trying to operate in. So the first probably 6 years was just that. It was just me trying to, let people know that I cook and that I'm really trying to do this thing at the next level. Then what happened? I was driving trucks I got my license in about 2017, 2018, and was driving all the way up until COVID happened. And at the start of COVID, like, I was in and out of New York City when it first happened. This was like April at the time. I'm like, wow. Wait, actually, sorry, I got to backtrack. Okay,
Yeah, no,
so
no, go
listen,
ahead.
as I'm driving trucks, my wife ended up getting pregnant with our first son, our first child, my son. He ends up passing away at like he made it to 21 weeks. He pretty much her water broke prematurely. She wasn't able to, go the distance with it, and it got to a point where they either had to take him out or she could potentially lost her life. So they had to take her out. She delivered it, and I mean, at that point, we kind of were broken because we were like, "Damn, we thought this was going to be it. Like we thought we were going to be parents finally." So we had to bury him and all that. And my wife at the time, she used to be on the truck with me all the time, but at that point, she was just like, "You know what? I'm coming back on the road. Like I don't want to. I don't want to be by myself." And we're on the truck. Things going pretty all right. It's just me and her figuring it out day by day. Then COVID happened. Then I'm like, shit, we can't go back to the city and be stuck in the city during the height of COVID. So like, let's figure this out. So I told him like, all right, if we go home, I'm pretty sure I could sell some food and we could probably make at least a day's pay. So it's not that hard, whatever. We ended up going back home. I turned the truck around, told the driver, I'm like, yo, I'm done. Like, I'm not about to drive through this. It is what it is. I started selling food that next day, which was probably like a Friday. I put the menu up on Instagram. I'm like, yo, this is what I got. If y'all want it, pull up to my house type thing. So posted the menu. I got like 10 or 15 orders. And I'm like, damn, I never got 10 or 15 orders that quick ever. Like and this whole time of me selling food. So I'm like, okay. The next day comes, I get 10 or 15 more. I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. So at that point, I sold out. I was like, okay, sold out already. Put the menu on. I'm like, yo, sold out for the day. Thank y'all. Just to, be, just to let the people know that it's actually selling. So I'm like, all right, cool, boom. Next day, post another menu. Same thing happened. I sold about 40 plates that day. And I'm like, wow, okay, this thing is actually doing something. So, for the next year or two after that, I was just selling food from my house, just growing a buzz. I was doing caterings. I was doing a whole bunch of things. Like at that point, opportunities were just flowing to me because like people loved the idea that I was making food from my house, and then they just wanted to support. So I was like, okay, boom. One of my business partners had just finished playing in the league at the time, and his cousin used to buy a lot of food from me. He reached out to his cousin. He's like, "Yo, I'm trying to open a restaurant. Who should I who should I hit up to be the chef?" Type thing. He said, he ended up connecting us together. He reached out to me. We had the first meeting. He was like, yo, I own this building. It has a restaurant in it. We could probably open up a restaurant. Our family has been making this barbecue sauce for like 20 years. Let's see if we can make it work. And we didn't really even know each other. So I honestly was just like, all right. I was like, it's an opportunity. I'm not going to turn it down. I just want to see if he got good intentions. Let's see where we could go.
This
So
is a good relationship here. But anyway, go on. Because I want to explore it, but I can tell by, well, you have two stores. We'll jump there eventually, but let's talk about continue down this. So these investors just pop up as you're thinking
yeah,
about opening a restaurant.
yes, exactly. So yeah, he reached out. We had a couple. So we had the first meeting. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna start figuring out like names, menu items, whatever, whatever. Our original idea was Papa Golden Soul, which is my name, Papa, his last name Golden, and then Soul was just like the thing that tied it all together. And it was gonna be like, typical soul food spot with big plates, whatever. And then like one day, like 3 o'clock, I was just up late and it hit me. I'm like, yo, we can't do that. Like long term, this is not a scalable thing. Like we have to figure out a thing we can scale because like soul food plates is a lot of prep, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of and we're gonna open it, and in 6 months, everyone's gonna be burnt out in the kitchen, and I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, damn, what could we do? Like, how could we make this happen? So like, I literally got the idea of soul bowl because I'm like, all right, it could be soul food in a bowl, and pretty much it could be a simple menu that we can like have limited items, not too big. Like right now, we probably have 12 items on our menu, and because restaurants, you have a lot of waste. You got to take into all those other factors. So I was like, all right, soul bowl. It's a simple, easy concept, and then like it could be like almost like a conveyor belt. It could just be like, sorry, assembly line. when we're working the line type thing. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I hit him up. I'm like, yo, I hit him up at the same time. I'm like, yo, we got to talk. So we had another meeting. I told him about that. He was like, yeah, that's great. Because honestly, public golden soul sound good, but it's like execution wise, it sounds too hard. At that point, he's like, yo, we're going to need one more person because like me and you kind of the same. Like, we going to do work, but we ain't really the paperwork type of like guys, to legitimize the business and all those things. So he was like, yo, this guy that we mutually know named Willie, he's our other business partner. He's like, yo, I'm gonna reach out to Willie because like he's the only guy I think might be capable of doing it and like whatever, whatever. But at the time when I was selling food in my house, Willie was buying food for me. So like we already had a relationship. He already knew like what I was going on. He already knew the food and everything. So Malik hit him up. He pitched it to him, and Will was like, "Yeah, I'm in." And then Malik was like, "Yo," he called me up. He's like, "Yo, I just talked to him. He literally said he's in." I'm like, "What? Just like that? That quick?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm down." I was like, "All right, cool." So from that point forward, it was like maybe October or November of 2021. We kind of just really pushed forward to opening up the restaurant, and then we ended up getting it open in March of 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I pause you for a second? I'm going to ask some questions just real quick before we get into the restaurant itself. Talk to me about being on the road as a truck driver. You have a lot of time on your mind. You were thinking a lot about food. You're obviously on the road, so you're seeing a lot of food venues also in a way, and lots of parts of the world. You're getting a lot of exposure to the world through that you bring back. That experience, that exposure is obviously brought back in maturity back to your business. That's the difference between the before and after, is that in between stage of growth on the road and as a man, obviously, and a father. And so let's talk a little bit about the growth that happens between the first time you attempt it and the second time you attempt it, meaning both times like trying to do it out of your home style. The difference is the human and the energy behind it, the other E there. You got your education, then you went and got experience. Now you had to expose yourself to the world, and that gave you the energy, the proper energy to produce your entrepreneurial venture, the fifth E there in this case. So let's just talk about what's happening during that period. There is like a forging of a better human.
Yeah, yes. So that's exactly that. So when I was driving trucks, that's when I first found out about podcasts. So I kind of started to listen to just a variety of podcasts, some self-help, type podcasts. And then I really started to hone in on this marketing podcast. It was called Entrepreneurs on Fire. That one really like helped me mentally just understand what it takes to market and psychologically like how the brain works when you're trying to like entice customers, you know what I'm saying? So like that podcast right there really opened my eyes, and I just started to kind of see like, wow, like the way to marketing is way different. It's more psychological than actually, sometimes people think marketing is just creating a flyer, but it's like the flyer is really a byproduct. It's really just how you present yourself and how expose yourself to the customer, which is what makes them kind of enticed to even want to shop with you in the first place. So that podcast, and then also too, just like I was by myself a lot, so I was thinking through a lot of my own interactions, my own experiences, and kind of just blowing smoke through all the things that I thought was real. Like at that point, I really kind of started to see life for really what it was. And I swear, the moments of me driving trucks was probably like 3 to 4 years. That is what really produced all of this, because I was able to just sit alone with my thoughts and kind of dissect them and kind of like rebuild them into stronger new ideas that can actually be executed.
There's a thing there, I think, for you also, because you're such a strong leader now. I think during that time, there's a lot of obedience and discipline and having to be what I would call a follower as a truck driver. You're under everyone's schedule, everyone else's expectations, and you're the middleman that makes it all happen.
Right.
And so I think there's probably a lot of that discipline and obedience and servitude you learned and from working for someone else that you now carry in as a leader. as
Right.
well.
Yes.
Let's talk about the jump initially, the second one into the house. When you do the menu, you're like, okay, I need something better. The truck life, I have bigger inspirations or whatever. It's too early in the morning. It's 6:30 in the morning here in Denver. I'm not functioning yet. I need more coffee. But the inspiration, you have higher aspirations. I think that's the word. I don't even know this morning. But anyway, you want more out of life for you and your family, and you're aiming in that direction. You're by being in the truck, you're obviously the thinking, you're dissecting the fear, you're getting rid of fears while at the same time growing. Let's talk about going into doing soul food again, because you mentioned simplifying to the bowl when you get in the restaurant. I want to anchor this point. When you started again, you had a lot of success, but you were sort of just trying everything that you could to display your skill set. Why did you think displaying your skill set and giving that credibility was so important?
Because ultimately I just wanted to people because like I just don't like to be in the box. So like however I cook, I specialize in soul food, but switched it to saying food for your soul because like I want you to know that anything that I cook or put my time into, I'm gonna make sure it tastes good. So like with me being able to offer a variety, it kind of was like a brand builder because like if I was only selling soul food, it would be quick for the customer to be like, well, he only has this. Like that's all he has. Like he's pretty much a one-stop shop. So like with me being a standalone and not really having a restaurant, I'm like, all right, at least if I add some variety, some days customers are like, wow, he got this today. I didn't even think he could do that. So it kind of will drive that hype behind it, as opposed to, all right, today he has soul food. All right, tomorrow he's gonna have soul food. Next week he's gonna have soul food. I wanted to kind of like have some type of hype, like almost like when a sneaker releases, they're like, oh, I didn't even know that was coming out. So now it's people like, oh, I gotta go get it. Oh, I gotta go get it. So like that actually helped work to my benefit because like I would do just different things that I saw was popular on social media and kind of put my own little twist to it.
Yeah, this is a good strategy. Probably you've definitely done your homework, and we were talking about the E-Myth book
Yeah,
you're reading. I've read that book. I agree a lot about a lot of the things. In marketing and advertising, it's what I think. A lot of entrepreneurs, we go into it thinking this is what I prefer, this is how I would do it, or this is how I make my choices.
yeah,
And we have this very inward conversation about it, but the problem is we're not actually understanding how we make decisions, even as an individual, even though we think we do. Everything has to do with choice. As humans, that's why grocery store have multiple choices, because it guarantees you will at least buy one of the things, because humans get power and choice. That's the important part. But the second part is what actually captures the human attention. What is the things that actually capture the mind, and where does the eye focus? Even on a poster. These things are very important. I know everyone's like, I need to get as much information on the poster as possible. Or like me, I tend to be wordy in Instagram posts. That's who I am. I have too many words inside of me. It's an introvert for too many years. But the thing is it's all copy. It all in the same way. You have to be very concise, and it has to catch the attention quickly. And that's the hardest part, and for food businesses, that's why there is the constant need now to be in a creative mode. If you're not a restaurant and you're not in a constant creative mode, whether it's weekly specials or just a special or just having fun with employees and putting a reel up there, like a contest of creating something fun for the restaurant, whatever it is, it needs to be out there. Why is that important? Because humans, the sticky point to humans right now is newness.
yeah,
So if something new or big or different is out there, it's going to catch the eye. Okay. This is on the bad side too. I don't mean bad as in morally and ethically. I just mean I don't really want to watch people eating until they barf. Okay. That's the
Right.
downside of the food thing, but it is getting videos and these people are making lots of money. Why am I saying that? Because there is value there because people can't stop watching it. That's an extreme. What are they doing? They're taking something we can't take our eye off, even though we don't want to watch it. We're watching it anyway.
Yep.
Okay. In food, it's the same idea. It's the same type of indulgence in our restaurants. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to watch this, but it looks so good. I'm going to keep watching it anyway. Oh, and what's the next thing they're going to do? And what's the next thing he's going to do? And what's the next thing he's going to do? So part of the marketing and advertising now become that going back for more to look at the next creation from
Yeah.
a business. So,
And that
go ahead. I won't touch
is really
upon it
important to say
because you do a
because
great job at it. Go on.
yeah, I mean that's kind of and kind of when we formed the restaurant, that's I kind of put a lot of those frameworks into it with the same ideas of okay, what because yeah, our menu is simple and small, but we do run specials often, and that's like something to keep them coming. And like and also too, the restaurants industry is very hard to keep up with, but like I always had this bigger vision where it's like I want to create other concepts, but I want to use this restaurant as the tester for all these other concepts that I want to bring to life. So it's like with these specials, I already know, like, for example, there's another concept that we're working on, and it's like solo house and desserts. And it's pretty much just a house, a little small spot, takeout spot that sells egg rolls with different fillings in them because we do a variety of different egg rolls within our restaurant. And it's like, with me now having access to the public marketplace, like I'm able to exercise and get feedback on what works and what doesn't work. Because when I was selling food for my house, I was attached to whoever was following me, my fan base only, so it's kind of small. But like now, with us having a business that you can look up on Google and things like that, I'm actually able to get strangers and actually, this is what really helps to build a solid business. Because like your fans are always good, they're always going to support you, but the people who don't know about you are the ones where you get the real honest feedback from.
I mean, let's talk about this a little bit because interacting with customers in today's day and age and social media, internet, all of that, you're on top of this game. Okay. There's something I want to get into. I'm going to anchor this because I think it's important, and let's anchor it into opening the restaurant. You've never opened a restaurant before. You now have two investors. You're building relationships there, trust. They're new. So let's talk about the dynamics here in detail. Let's talk about the dynamics of building a triangle partnership, because that's what you have here. You have three people, all with different personalities. You're the operation partner. So you're designing, building, being involved in the business, I assume, but I don't know how it works. But let's talk about this transition because now you have two of them. So it's not like you're just like, oh, that sucked. I don't want to do that again. Let's wait a while. You jumped right in and ate more. Like one elephant wasn't enough to eat piece by piece. You ate another one. So let's talk about that part of your journey.
I mean, I'm a strong believer in faith, and I feel like God definitely aligned me with people who were like-minded because like this industry is hard, and I mean it really chews up a lot of people and spits them out. But my two partners, Malik and Will, they were the perfect complement for this journey because like this is not like no one's gonna decide to just open a restaurant just because they wanna, like it takes some grit to be able to say, yeah, let's open a restaurant together because it's not all pretty as it looks. You know what I'm saying? So I'll tell you. Up until that point, I just said I have simple values. I said, you know what? I'm gonna be honest, and if I don't know, I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? For me, for the rapport building, I'm gonna just be honest and just because you can't lose off of honesty. You know what I'm saying? So through our meetings, we kind of were just figuring it out. But Malik, he has a football background, so he knows hard work. He knows how to put his head down and grind, regardless of what it takes. And then really, he has the background of he had an online fitness company that did really well, and he has the marketing, the financials, and the same thing, the grit, just being able to put your head down and grind. Because I feel like for the restaurants, that is probably the grit is the most important attribute that you can possess when you're trying to open, because there's a lot of gray areas, there's a lot of unknown, and it's easy to let your emotions get the best of you. But I could say nothing like that has ever happened. We've pretty much all sacrificed our own feelings for the bigger picture. And that's kind of what makes it work so well, because like none of us is ego tripping. None of us is emotional about what's happening. We know we just got to get the job done, and that's the only thing, regardless of if it takes a little bit more from you or if it takes a little bit more from you. We all willing to put the same in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think honestly that's so. Before it all came together, I knew it was going to work, because after one meeting we had, we were all talking about where we're trying to go with this thing. And Willie said at the meeting, he's like, "Yo, this I could see this as $1 billion corporation." I'm like, "All right, I don't need to say anymore, because I've already been kind of, sowing a seed to grow to that point." But it's just like, if he's coming in and he doesn't even know all the visions and things that I want to bring to life, and he already sees it as that. That's what it is. We don't have to talk too much. We just got to keep putting in the work until we get there. Because I feel like with partners is the end goal is probably where the biggest hangup happens. Like it might start off fine, but if ultimately you guys have different visions as where you're trying to go, it's going to always create some type of static.
Yeah, I do want to. I agree on having faith and trust in the first partner. And you didn't say it; you said it without saying it. Where the first partner is God, that's your first
Yep.
business partner, and then the partners. As long as everything aligns to that, you're good. So I want to emphasize that for the audience, because I agree 100% with that. Honestly, as long as you're in alignment with that and your partners and you share the same vision and values, the V's matter
Yeah.
there. It's important. And I say venture because they want the venture to go in the same direction. So I tend to stick with V's. Everything in my head works in threes, guys. Sorry. I think most humans do. That's the other thing. Just for marketing and advertising, there's a thing about 3 things. When you do a presentation to your team, do it in 3 points
Right.
and try to keep things no more than 12 slides, a variation of 3. And Jesus being 33, 12 apostles, these are all denominations of 3, but that's a
Right.
whole other numerology thing. But anyway, for you guys to really think about is, yes, why do partnerships work in threes better? Because also there's not me versus you, and that scenario never happened. So the one-on-one partnerships, they tend to take a lot more courting time, where when you do a triangle relationship, they tend to balance themselves out better because there is balance. Now, I'm not saying that our personal relationships in our home would be better in a triangle, but what I am saying is that in our business relationships, it helps make things balance when there's accountability in what I would call a 360, and especially when God's involved or values and vision and venture all align. So
Yeah.
that's for the audience here. Let's talk about a little bit about soul food in general. I want to just touch upon it for the audience because we've had a few on the podcast.
Yep.
One of the reasons I've highlighted you and Annie's Soul Delicious out in LA is because for the audience, we're talking about 2 companies that aren't only building restaurants, they're building an industry. Okay. And while everyone knows soul food and the basis of it, I'm going to historically just anchor something for everyone. When you have a population of humans that has everything taken away from them, there is still value in the food given to one another and the energy that they use when they have it. So energy still has value, probably a greater value. Okay. And when that's put into the food in love, in energy, that's the soul there, the ability to grow and prosper beyond the restrictions of what education, experience, and exposure was allowing them too, they use the energy in the food. Okay, this is important. Why is this important, guys? And for any society, for any humans, for anything, energy in food matters for the prosperity, getting through hardship, surviving horrible circumstances, sometimes generationally. When we feed our generations the right food and love, they have the ability to stand up eventually. They're nourishing the brain. They're doing better. Okay. This is things that I know as a Italian why Romans did well. We invented aqueducts that brought water everywhere. That means we grew a diverse things of food and whatever. So my family's from Naples, so we weren't Roman. So there's a class system there back in the day. But what I am saying is that the importance is the food and the nutrients. Whatever circumstances going on in the world right now, it's soul food is the answer. What do I mean? Any food you make, doing whatever you're doing, put as much love and nutrients and minerals and energy into that food so your legacy has a better chance to grow better than you. Okay, the first start is that very basic, is that love and energy into the food. And why is that important? Because if we're doing it just with our food, we're going to put that same love and energy into everything we do.
Right. Yes.
So that's why soul food has as a bigger connotation, is holding on to those grassroots. Go ahead if you want to touch on that before I touch on the next topic.
On the head. Okay, that was the exact perfect definition for what we represent as far as soul food, because like people don't understand that restaurants is really not about the food. It's about the people. And like at first coming into it as a rookie, I didn't understand. Like I was just so pressed on, oh, we got to get the food tasting good. But I'll tell you something. When we first started, we started off with a team of friends, and you know how that usually goes. It didn't work out as well because we kind of just had people just based on relation. Now we have a team of people that are all sharing the same efforts as far as they have a shared vision. They want to work to get the job done. And we treat them with, the right respect and morals and dignity that everyone requires. And if you treat your team good and you give them what they need as far as just respect, I feel like respect is probably the most underrated value in the workplace. The results that you get from your team is amazing. Like I'm a rookie and I have about 15 employees right now. I don't ever have to call them and say, "Hey, you coming to work today?" They all show up ready to work every day, regardless of what's going on in their life. And I feel like that is exactly what you said. The soul. You put in love and energy into something that transcends beyond the product and it affects the people that you're working with to get it done.
It's that spiritual growth too. That's very, very important in the way we feed ourselves. And to anchor this for everyone, one of the reasons I do the podcast is to talk about where opportunity is, where there's threats, where everyone asks the questions. And I know we talk about putting in the gorilla braid, but what is going on here is soul food is telling the story, the history of food, but also of a population, of a world, of the way food should be done. They're bringing it back to the roots. And it is an industry that these individuals are building. They're not only building their restaurants, they're building an industry. So when we talk about individuals that are building within industries that are already existing, fried chicken, burgers, pizza, but there's also important to note there are these industry leaders, these blazers of trails that are doing it. What's the difference when I talk about them? There's a spirituality anchored in energy of love or pursuit or legacy or trying to give back. There's a higher purpose in it. Why is that important? Because that's what it takes to build an industry. It takes a lot of vision and venture, like we talked about, to build a business, but the purpose, that greater purpose, that spirituality, that energy, it's important. Where does it come from? Well, hardship, guys. A lot of just going in, doing the hard work, learning the lessons, no matter where you come from, starting at the bottom and learning what you need to learn. Be willing to be humbled because that's important. That's an important lesson as an entrepreneur, the humility part.
Very. That is probably, I think that is probably one of the most important things as an entrepreneur, because if you don't go through that phase, you don't really gain that sense of, of just understanding, like, okay, this is just adding to the why. This is just adding to the why. Because not everything makes sense when you first start out.
Talk to me about the inspiration, motivation, role models. We talked about the book, the podcast, but talk to me a little bit about those. But I think I also want to talk about the food, the development into the bowls, the mindset there, because you were trying to simplify your brand, which is important. So I'm going to hold off on the mentor thing. We're going to answer that one next, but I want to focus on the bowl, the mindset. You're focusing on the food system. You're breaking down your menu that's more palatable for you, palatable for your vendors, palatable for your team members, being your employees, and the customers. Where does that come from? Because that's not just something that someone's normally like, oh, I'm going to do this. You mentioned you thought about it. Why the thought? Everything was great. You could have put your own name on the brand. Like you literally steered away from everything that glorified you in a way. I just want to emphasize that because that's kind of what
Yes. So
happened.
I at some point during my podcasting journey, I listened to this podcast and I don't remember exactly who it was, but there was someone on there and they said that, like, pretty much they just spoke to how, like, if you're really trying to take a corporation to the next level, you have to, you can't associate it with yourself, because you can't have your business reliant on you. So, like, the first thing I wanted to do was take myself out of the equation, because I didn't want to be trapped in the kitchen at this chef or have customers saying, oh, well. And honestly, when we first opened, we did experience this, because, like, if people didn't see me in the kitchen, they're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of wanted to break that identity and kind of create a corporation that is going to live beyond me. You know what I'm saying? So, like, with the whole Soul Bowls, I was like, all right, cool. If we create this company as Soul Bowls, it doesn't have an identity to just me. This can be anyone. We could have we could have any face for the company. And, like, that is a better, it's an easier push for me, because, like, it's a long-term play. Like me, I have kids. I'm trying to do things for them for when they become adults. So, like, I wanted to really do the thing as a long-term play, something that wasn't relying on me and, putting all the work forward, because selling food from my house, I was the one who had to do all that. Me and my wife were in the kitchen every day. This is not what I want to do. I don't want to be in the kitchen every day. I don't want to be selling food or, stuck behind the heat in the kitchen and all that. So that's kind of what gave birth to the idea of Sobos. I'm like, I have to take myself out of this equation.
It's great. I love it. Let's talk about mentors, guides. We talked about podcasts, stuff like that. But what else has been important to you? Because you've been balanced. You started off working hard. You knew that you had a culinary dream, or there was a burning inside of you. You pursued it early, and then diversified you with trucking, which I guarantee you, your trucking and your logistics, and eventually building a commissary to support your restaurant system. That trucking experience that you had for those 3 to 4 years is there for a reason.
Yes. Yes. So okay. I'll tell you right now, my dad, first off, he was a hard worker. He got up every day, went to work, no questions asked, no complaints. Same thing with my mom. My mom never was just taking a day off. She was always working. So, like, naturally I understood the value of work and just, like, how you had to go to work in order to make things happen. So that kind of I learned from my parents. I took that from just just observing them, you know what I'm saying? And from them, their absence of me growing up, well, not to say like they were away from the house or anything like that, but, typical 9 to 5. So they're away from the house from 9 to 5 during the summertime. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be working that hard when I get their age. Like, I want to kind of be able to, create my own lifestyle. So I started to, like, question things very early, and that's kind of what started to frame me, like, shape my mind into what I wanted to do for myself. And then my wife is she was raised by her grandparents, and they kind of instilled her with great morals, values, and when the minute we met, I was like, wow, this is my wife. Like I already knew because through our little casual courting conversations, she would just always, just remind me of the power of being a good person, doing the right thing. And go, she never allowed me to do anything out of character. You know what I'm saying? Whenever my emotions was high and came home frustrated and I thought I was gonna, whatever it was, just, life gets hard. So like she always reminded me like, listen, regardless of what, we just got to keep going. You know what I'm saying? And I always appreciated that from about her because she fueled me. The minute I met her, it's like I saw exactly what I needed to get done in this world in order to make it happen. And it's kind of like she was the one that put the battery in my back that really like got it going, turned the engine on for me to start producing.
I like it. I like this. We talked a lot. Let's talk about the next steps. Let's talk about you. How did you decide to go from one store to two? What was that like? How did you figure that out? Because we only touched upon it a little bit. Like you had to figure out health codes and equipment and work with a kitchen consultant or restaurant consultant probably. And there's all these things you had to do to open your first store. So talk to me about navigating because those waters are all unknown, right?
Yeah, yes. So I'll tell you a little bit. So thankfully, the first location it already had a hood. It was a really small spot. It's similar to like the neighborhood corner takeout Chinese takeout spot as sides. It was just a counter. It's just a counter. You order, and then the kitchen's right behind, and they're prepping your food. So I'll tell you a few pros. With my partner owning the building, we didn't have to go through a lot of the landlord troubles that most businesses have to go through. You know what I'm saying? The negotiation and all that. So like that was one problem that we had alleviated. But on the journey to opening the restaurant, it was very hard just because a lot of these areas there's no writing. Like you can't find writing on what you need to get your restaurant open. You know what I'm saying? It's more so you got to have an inspector come out and then they'll tell you what's wrong and things like that. So when we're opening the first one, I'll tell you that one of the biggest things that we learned is all restaurants need floor drains. But when we got our first inspection, they never told us that we needed the floor drain. So like we got our first inspection, then they told us like, oh, we got to do this, this, and that. I'm like, all right, cool. So we did all the things that they told us. They came back and they're like, wait, you don't have any floor drains. This is never gonna work. What? You guys never mentioned floor drains on the first trip. So that was a hurdle within itself. But going from the first one
That's
to
a
the
big
second,
hurdle. Are you tearing up some concrete and laying in new
exactly.
pipes? God, I've been there. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough. I put them in by the code I know, was told, and then we got a new health inspector, and they came in the middle of construction, they reassigned the area, and oh my goodness, I don't even know how to talk about the headache of doing that.
Yeah, that was probably the most annoying thing, just because it was like, if she would have told us, we would have already been
Yeah.
working to it. Because you've been trying to, the process when you're opening something new.
Well,
You're
not
trying to
to
do it
mention the floor drains are like something you want to do first before you break dust and concrete everywhere.
exactly, exactly.
So
So yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
no. I want to go on with the story because I mean, so you're having these hiccups at the beginning for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So we was having the hiccups. We actually got one health inspector who literally told us that our vision for the space wasn't going to work because it was too small. He was uneducated. He didn't really know like really how restaurants operated. So he was like, "You guys might as well just turn this into a sandwich shop." Mind you, we already invested. I mean, our investment was completely different from
Oh
other
God, oh
a
God, I
little.
love it. I hate it, but I love it all at the same time because it is just the little like the spiritual warfare that goes on and trying to open a successful business. It's the nitpicking that goes on. Anyway, go
Yes.
on.
Yeah, so that happened. I mean, we worked steadfast. We had a good contractor who pretty much could get anything done that we needed. So he fit, put the floor drain in. And we had to install a grease trap, which was another big thing that we didn't know about. We had that installed. But I'll tell you this: the first soft opening that we did, this is when I knew that we had it. Like all along, I didn't doubt it, but there was just the hiccups that was kind of like, it was exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. But for our soft opening, we told all our family, all three of us. So pretty much everybody came. And listen, the restaurant was, it was flooded. Like this is how we were able to go build up traction because we did a soft opening. So many people came. There were literally a line wrapped around the corner, and people were coming, driving by, taking videos. Like, yo, I was on my way here. I'm not standing in this line because it was in the middle of the winter, and it was chaos. We rice was getting messed up. We were selling out of things. It was just a complete disaster. But it was so amazing because like
Yeah.
neither of my business partners, none of us, we lost cool. Like the whole team that we had, everyone was just taking the beating. And I looked around at one point, I was just like, okay, we got a solid crew right here. Nobody's, giving up. Nobody's, having an emotional breakdown or anything. I'll never forget too. My business partner, Malik, he owned the building. So like, you would think he would have a typical stance of just like, yeah, well, this thing better be running good, Like I'm just watch. Nah, this guy was literally washing dishes in the middle of the house. I had maybe 50 people in the front and like 150 family members in the back, and this dude is in the back of the kitchen just washing dishes. Like, yeah, should I put this here or should I put it there?
That's where we all start, though, at some point. At some point, things get so busy, and your experience, if you don't have it, you end up washing the dishes because you don't know what else to do, and you go back to the roots, man. Jeez, I love it. But it did succeed. It did wrap around the block. I did start, picking up this traction that you were gaining probably around then, I would say. In a lot of ways, I started seeing it because what I noticed is that they're whatever you guys are doing, you're getting your food out there, you're getting the message out there in a way that has stickiness. There's an energy to it. I think that's important. Talk to me about lessons learned after that first event.
Yes. So what we did to open, we just bought a bunch of repurposed equipment. At that point, I learned like the power of buying, having the right equipment to do the right job. Because we were a small restaurant at the time. We kind of just bought lightly used equipment and kind of figured it out. The week after we opened, we literally had to go buy all new equipment because what we had was not capable of feeding our hungry customer. Another thing I learned, the importance of having the right team. Like I feel like that is probably the if I had to say top three things that was the most important thing is having the right team is the most important thing because like you need people who are willing to go through that mud with you and not get so beat up and deterred from the process because like during that time we had to troubleshoot a lot of employee conflicts just because people think business is something else. Like I don't know. I learned a lot just about how people perceive business, and once you open a business, people think that there's just this windfall of cash, and it's like you know how many expenses that are associated with any business. So like the whole myth of just like what it takes to run a business and what it actually produces. Another thing I could say is just doing the right thing. The power of doing the right thing and not cutting corners. Like when you cut corners, like we didn't cut any corners, thank God. And no, I'm happy that neither of my partners have that in them. Like we all are the same. We want to do it by the book. And if it's not by the book, we're going to do it the best as we can until we figure out how to do it better. That's probably another thing that's really important because you don't want to cut corners in business because it's expensive and it's going to cost you time and resources. And it's like, if you do it right, it might take a little bit longer, but at least you don't have to backtrack.
Yeah,
The,
go ahead.
the last thing is just the power of faith, just the power of believing and working and showing up every day. Just even if you're not in your best, but putting your best foot forward, just because you have a team now that's constantly looking at you to see how to handle situations, see how you handle situations. So it's like, you got to just show them. It's like your kids almost. You got to show them the best parts of you all the time because you're trying to create a culture.
Yeah, that's true. Last question for you as we wrap things up here. Well, actually, last two questions. Talk to me about building the team, the employees. You guys have a good relationship as owners, as partners, as entrepreneurs. Talk to me about building the right employee team and then taking that same systems, all the lessons learned, and then building a second one, because you now have to replicate this, but there's a lot of things you probably wanted to improve on as you get into that second location. Obviously, something we just talked about was the equipment, not sparing on costs of things, probably even ingredients, things like that. So let's anchor it there. Let's talk about that transition, building that the team members properly in your organization, and then that transition into a second location.
Okay, so first things first, to build a team properly, I feel like you just have to treat people the way you want to be treated. No one wants to, you know, be bossed. No one wants to be told, like this. No one wants to be disrespected. So going into it, when we were hiring people, we were kind of just having initial interviews, just seeing how the energy of the person was. But ultimately, when you're building a team, there's no sure cookie cutter way to figure it out. You kind of just got to hire, observe, and then based on the actions of the person that you hire, you'll know like, okay, this person's got it or they don't. So like what we've done is we're pretty much open. We hired a bunch of different people. We hired a lot of people, and some of them we had to let go just because they just didn't see where we were trying to go. And a few people we kept, and the ones that we kept, we were like, yo, we appreciate you. You do a great job for us. Do you know anyone else that want to work? And thankfully, a lot of our best employees had another one or two people who also needed work, and they were just as good, if not better than them. So it kind of like worked by the faith of God. Like we hired a few good people and kind of just showed them how good we were as employees, and they kind of led us to our next employees. Like a lot of our we have, I said, 15 people right now. They all knew each other prior. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of based on the web network that they already created from previous restaurants they worked in and things of that sort. So my advice to anyone who's looking to build a team is just start the process. I would say hire some people, and based on values, just express what your values are. If the values don't align, fire them and look for the next person. Because the one thing you don't want to do is put too much time in the wrong candidate. I feel like that's a big thing as an entrepreneur that you do sometimes. That's like, wow, man, if I would have let this person go a while ago, I probably would have found another person who I could have invested the training and resources to.
Yeah, my biggest mistake was as our company got bigger and bigger and bigger in the amount of employees, I would start investing in people, and I'd have people close to me tell me that I was investing in the wrong person, and I couldn't hear it for whatever reason, my ego or whatever, because the company was growing or whatever. And I didn't listen to the right people at the time about those people either. So I think as an entrepreneur growing, guys, as our businesses grow, sometimes we lose track of our humility or ability to listen along the way. We can get gassed up on ourselves in some ways, but I anchor it because I just wanted, as for me, something that I did, I agree with. Gosh, and you invest in the wrong ones sometimes, or you believe in the wrong ones, or you have hope in them, but it's a personal thing. It's not a business thing. That's where I learned to detach it. If it's becoming personal, where I'm investing in them personally, yes, is every business relationship and employee relationship team member, when I'm investing in them personal, yes, don't get me wrong. But there's a difference between, is it my personal goal or am I trying to grow this person for that person, not my own self?
Right, right.
That's the important thing, because at some point, we can, as competitive humans, as entrepreneurs, we can be challenged by the growth of someone, become a challenge, a game, a thing to win. But we just, it's just a warning lesson. It's not that. And the person has to be very willing. And in also growing humans, we also have to let them fall or fire them. So there might be a lesson learned in it. So that's the hard part. But I wanted to anchor that since you talked about it. Real quick, where can they find you online and where are your locations?
Yeah, so restaurant is Soul Bowls, Soul BOWLS. On Instagram, on TikTok, we are Soul Bowls CT.
Yeah.
And then our Hartford location is 489 Weathersfield Ave, Hartford, Connecticut. West Hartford location is 1142 New Britain Ave, West Hartford, Connecticut, located in Elmwood. But yeah, I mean, if you're in the area and you need some good food, stop by. We make everything in house. Nothing is, processed before. We 100% from scratch kitchen, sauces and everything. So
Yeah. I want to say something also for the audience since we're on this, and I think I'm going to anchor it for everyone. Whenever a lot of people ask about scalability, franchising, franchise food systems, I will be honest, I've seen a lot of things. There's some companies, crumble, can franchise across the board and then run into their problems later and then try to adjust. And now they're making cakes because they didn't learn their problems early on. They franchise very quickly. Are they billionaires? Yes. Is there that upside? But there's a long, many, many, many years of learning lessons as a large company that they didn't learn as a small company. Okay. So why am I bringing up this? Because if anyone would ask me, particularly in this industry, about franchising or scalability, since it's a topic, it does depend on the industry. It does depend on the business, but you've got to get good at running your own businesses first. You've got to get good at expanding the food system yourself before you take someone else's money, train someone on something, and do it out there. I'm going to give that advice because everyone asks me about when is it time to franchise. You will know the right time. There is no magic number, but generally running 5 to 10 stores on your own will give you the experience of what it's like to run a multiple food chain system on your own, because adding in a franchisee is adding another partner, into your system.
In the equation.
Did I say that? Go ahead.
I said, and you're adding another variable in the equation.
Yes, a big variable. And
Hey,
go ahead.
franchise, well, like you said, we're definitely waiting till we get to the 5-10 mark.
Yeah.
We're going to start the process just so we're ready, but we got to open multiple locations and just see what the process is in different locations.
Yeah, build the culture, like you said, find that spiritual value in there, those core values that make your business tick. What products are going to be the home run winners in the long run? What we start off what isn't always what we end up with. We can look at McDonald's and the Chicken McNugget show up 30 years later. They invented it, by the way. There was no such thing as a chicken nugget until McDonald's invented it in the early 80s, guys. And now we all think of it. I don't even think kids know what life would be without a chicken McNugget. So like, these are things that are important to our food business. Stay creative. We talked about that. Stay moving forward. Stay steadfast. Be willing to let life arm you, equip you with skills. That's an important part of this episode. I guarantee you, as we have Chef Pop back on here over the years, because that's what we do here, we continue to tell the story, because as an entrepreneur, Snapshot is not even close to legitimate, because we've pivoted 15 times probably by the time this episode came out. So I'm exaggerating, but I'm talking about the story. So one of the things I emphasize for the audience is we know logistics, we know commissaries, we know standardizing, simplifying systems in a food system way is in Chef Pop's future. Why? Because we've already seen him be equipped with it. He's just got to have the faith and trust and the same trajectory that I get to bear witness to over here.
Yeah, and I appreciate this opportunity, man. It was great connecting with you. I would love to, learn more about just the startup process for you, because that's all I spend my time on. I love the startup, just like figuring out how are you going to get your your product to the market, and how are you going to capture the market, And what you've done was amazing. Like, I love that. That was a great story that you told me earlier before.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone listening in, I can talk. I do reach out to people. I do have conversations. I like talking and helping individuals outside of just the podcast. These are just doors that I open. And so, yeah, anytime anyone, seriously, like, that's where I am right now in my life, is just trying to make sure that we keep this industry growing as a whole, that we realize the power we have in it as entrepreneurs, the influence, the impact. It's greater than any other business. There's no other human being in this world that touches more humans, from vendors to employees to customers, than a restaurateur, especially a growing one. And so if we have so much power, that comes with great responsibility, guys. What do we do with it for our legacy and the purpose that we have been given? Because it's not just food and it's not just community, right? If we've been pushed in this direction and we have the ability to have that much impact and influence on that many humans, what are we going to do with it?
Right.
So I think you already know. I think it's in the soul of your food, pun intended. But love is a big part of all of that. And treating everyone the right way, right?
Yes. And also just showing them that the power of love. Because I feel like so many times,
Yeah.
we give glory to the other things, but love is such a powerful thing. And you really don't know what it's capable of until you start to act in love and, work in love and just do things out of the love as opposed to for something else.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Will you tell us one more time as we close up where the audience can find you on social media and where they can find you in person to try your food?
Yes. So Soulbowls at Soulbowls, SOULBOWLS on Instagram. Same thing on TikTok, just add CT at the end. 489 Wellsfield Ave in Hartford, and then 1142 New Britain Ave in West Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah, awesome. And I won't even get into how good you are at multitasking as an entrepreneur with everything going on right now in your background and everything, because I think it is part of the skills we gain. We getting this weird ability to handle multiple things at a time. That's kind of a crazy thing, and be able to carry multiple thought processes at a time. So I totally respect what you're doing. I think that 100% you're on the right trajectory as a business, as a human, and what you're doing. Obviously, a second location wouldn't happen if you weren't going in the right direction and you didn't have the right core values. So for the audience or anyone listening in or the entrepreneurs out there, the biggest lesson that I think is here for everyone that we can discuss is have faith and trust. Like we said, don't cut corners. Learn the lessons, do things the right way, be willing to do them the right way, and be willing to suffer through however long it takes to do it the right way, where the right way produces the right results.
Right. Wow. You are a wordsmith for it, because that was that was a perfect explanation of it.
Because I don't know any other way for me, and I have to simplify it, just like we talked about. And guys, it's not only our menus, it's not only our businesses as we scale them, but as we scale our lives, we have to simplify the way we do things also as entrepreneurs. That means sometimes the haircut comes to us down the road. That means sometimes we don't go to meetings anywhere else. We drive all the meetings to us. No, why is that important? Because in food, we naturally have that in the restaurant, everyone comes to us to sell us. Just remember not to lose that as you scale your business, because it is a powerful thing. Why is it powerful? In the food business, we don't have to be the bee. We get to be the flower and let all the bees come to us to pollinate and then take it away. That's the impact and influence. So thank you, Chef. I look forward to having you on again. Please sign up again whenever you want. I have a lot of other questions for you, things I want to dive into, or your business partners want to join you for episode. We could do that as well. It's totally up to you, but I'm definitely very interested in this, and I'm definitely going to be paying attention because I know what you're doing. I know you're building an industry. So anyone in the audience, that's what we want to support here. We want to support these businesses soul food businesses that have the right mindset, that have the right core culture, that tie it to their food, because they are the ones going to build a big international industry around soul food. Does everyone know what it is? Yes. Does that make it easier to build an industry? Yes and no. Everyone knows what a Philly cheesesteak is, but it's one of the hardest things to sell outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah, you're really right about that.
So that's all I'm saying, guys. So I love you guys. I appreciate everyone in the audience. Continue to share, like, support all the events and summits that are out there for all the food and beverage entrepreneurs, hospitality, farming, nutrition. All of us are kind of grouped together in the world. It's all there for you guys. So you want to network in your cities, you want to travel to a city to network with other food entrepreneurs. Everyone's got those options. And then those longer summits. The first one will be in New York City. The first one, we will be spending a lot of time focusing on food trucks and scaling and franchising your businesses for that, everyone. So that's what everyone, I've done surveys, I've asked people. I appreciate all those who continue to answer the surveys. The thing that everyone's worried about seems to be food costs right now, inflation, obviously. But the other thing is, how do I franchise? How do I scale? And then the food truck part of that piece in the same area. How do I scale a food truck? How do I build it? How do I have multiples if I want to just stay in the food truck game? Those are the two most common questions, is franchising, scaling in either one of those categories. So we will address that as the first summit. I built that around everything from you guys, from human resource experts to spirituality experts, being core values and morals and ethics, financial, all of that stuff, franchising experts, anyone into that stuff that you guys have asked me to do. So I'm trying to do that for you guys. I understand that my journey in life, my pieces have led me to be a connector. That is where I am. That is where God has put me right now. So that is what I'm trying to do. And I will get better at the podcast. And I do appreciate everyone. We will be going video as we go into 2026. That will be a big leap for us. But we will do video as well, since everyone is asking for that expansion. And then definitely anyone who's doing social media or marketing and advertising knows video does a lot better. So we will be doing that for you guys as well to help with that, since all of you have asked for video as well. Again, transcripts, summaries, all that stuff's on there on Gorilla Brave. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Chef Pop. And we're out.